Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so you sent over this stack of sources this week, and I have to say, wow, they're all over the place.
They really are. It's eclectic, to put it mildly. Almost feels like a prank.
Yeah, we're jumping from, 1960s brain experiments with altered states to modern-day propaganda networks and then all the way to classified physics.
It feels chaotic.
Huh.
But there is a thread, I promise.
Mhm.
Our job today really is to find that thread and pull on it. Every single source, no matter how fringe, is about one thing: hidden systems and who's controlling our reality.
Right. So this deep dive is all about showing you, the listener, a world where the stories we're told about animals, about politics, even about art are being challenged or, actively manipulated. Who controls the narrative? That's the question.
And who controls the physical world itself? Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start in probably the weirdest place we could, inside the mind of Dr. John C. Lilly. He was a neuroscientist, a very respected one, but his work took a sharp turn.
A very sharp turn. He's famous for inventing the sensory deprivation tank. He called it the goon tank.
The goon tank. I love it.
Willie was just obsessed with pushing the limits of consciousness. He figured if you could eliminate all sensory input, you'd unlock these deeper states of mind.
And the sources have this incredible anecdote about him and a friend, Todd McCormick.
Yeah, McCormick tells this story where Lilly gives him an intramuscular shot of ketamine before he gets into the tank.
So you're already in an altered state before you even start the sensory deprivation. That's intense. Why? What
Yeah.
was the goal?
The goal was unbelievably ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
Lilly thought that with that specific mix, they could use the tank to psychologically regress.
Hmm.
And not just to, childhood memories.
No.
He wanted to regress them to witness the actual moment of their own conception.
Wow. Okay.
And this is the first time we see this idea pop up in the sources. It's from the Tibetan Buddhist concept of the bardo, which we'll circle back to. Lilly was basically crossing every scientific boundary he could find.
But he didn't stop with humans. He became just as famous, maybe even more famous, for trying to communicate with dolphins.
Which brings us to the really tragic and frankly shocking story of Peter the dolphin.
Yeah, this part is tough.
It is. The sources are very blunt about it. Peter is part of this experiment where a female researcher lived with him in this kind of isolated, flooded house. The whole point was to try and teach him English.
And it just didn't work out that way.
Not at all. I mean, dolphins are incredibly intelligent, but they're also highly sexual animals. Peter became fixated on the researcher, and the whole study just started to break down.
And the details of that breakdown are pretty extreme.
They are. The note stated explicitly. The dolphin became so uncooperative from sexual frustration that the researcher, she ended up having to manually masturbate him just to calm him down enough to continue the experiment.
And when that came out,
The whole program was shut down,
Yeah.
obviously. Major ethical breach.
the end for Peter is just heartbreaking. He apparently took his own life. He just inhaled water.
He drowned himself. And it really forces you to completely rethink our whole view of dolphin intelligence.
We see them as these happy, smiling helpers,
Clipper,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
We romanticize them, but the biology is much darker. Their cerebral cortex is 40% larger than ours. They have language, they have dialects, but they also practice infanticide. They're sexually aggressive.
So that classic story of a dolphin pushing a drowning person to shore.
The source material claims we're just projecting our own morality onto that. The theory is it's not a rescue mission. It's just clearing trash from their space.
Removing an obstacle?
Yeah. Their intelligence is real, but their motives, their whole internal control system is completely alien to us. And that gap between what we see and what's really going on is the perfect jump to our next topic.
To human narrative control.
From hidden biological control to manufactured human control.
And we're not just talking about bots or trolls here. This is way more organized.
Right. This is about a monetized system the sources call propaganda bounties. Individuals are paid, and paid well, to not just tweet, but to actively flip a narrative online.
So it's like a freelance job for information warfare. How does that even work?
It's all based on performance. You get a task, a message to push, and if you hit certain engagement numbers, retweets, shares, that sort of thing, you get a huge payout. The sources cite a figure of $50,000.
$50,000 for tweeting. That's an insane amount of money. Is there a real example of this?
There is. The sources point to people in India and Sri Lanka tweeting very specific, detailed things about the Israel-Palestine conflict. They're nowhere near the conflict, but they're getting paid to shape how the world sees it.
That system, it connects to this other really speculative theory the sources mentioned. They call it the lost generation theory.
Right, and this is where it gets into blowback. The theory goes that a group of oligarchs tried to control youth culture by, and this is a direct quote from the material, force-feeding woke bullshit.
Okay, using their exact words.
Exactly. And the idea is that it completely backfired. Younger generations, zillennials or zooies, they started seeing people on TikTok just openly bragging about committing crimes.
So they saw a reality online that just didn't match the messaging they were being fed.
And they rejected it
Okay.
completely. And that rejection, according to this theory, is what led to the frantic buying up of media by people like Larry Ellison.
Yeah.
A desperate move to get the control back.
And the sources even get specific, saying Israel is a country that has not had woke programming for the last 12 years. It suggests how targeted these campaigns are supposed to be.
It's all about controlling the environment.
Speaking of which, let's go from digital control to a much more physical, ritualistic kind of control. Let's talk about Bohemian Grove.
The Grove. Yeah, it's always been this magnet for conspiracy theories. Every year, some of the most powerful people in the world meet there for this retreat.
And they do these very, very strange rituals, the most famous one being the cremation of care.
Exactly. This ceremony is performed in front of this giant 40-foot stone owl statue. You have these figures in hoods. They burn an effigy of care to symbolize them leaving their worldly troubles behind for the week.
And the owl isn't Moloch, right? That's the common idea.
Right. The sources here say the group identifies it as Minerva or Athena, the goddess of wisdom. But the source material adds this other historical layer.
How about Cecil Rhodes?
Yeah, Rhodes, the big imperialist, apparently his goal was to create secret faggots all over the world.
Yeah.
And we have to be really clear, the term, historically, meant bundles of sticks.
Like a fraternity, a tight-knit group.
Exactly. Tightly bound bundles of influential men. And we even have recordings of people reacting to this stuff. The notes mention that Richard Nixon, a member himself, called the Grove the faggiest damn thing I've ever seen.
So even the people inside thought it was bizarre.
Which tells you something. For the most powerful people on Earth to be doing these ancient-looking rituals, it suggests that symbolism and this kind of brotherhood are crucial to how they see and maintain power.
From controlling narratives to controlling power structures, which leads us to controlling culture itself.
And the fundamental energy that powers our world. Let's start with art as a psychological operation.
This is a wild claim. The sources allege that American abstract modern art, your Jackson Pollocks, your Rothkos, that their value wasn't organic.
It was an intelligence operation. The claim is that the CIA, through various cutouts, basically launched the entire movement to promote American cultural dominance over the Soviet Union.
Why that style of art, though?
Because it was the perfect weapon. Soviet art was rigid, skillful, realist. Abstract expressionism was messy, individualistic, totally subjective. It was the visual embodiment of American freedom versus Soviet control.
And the money just followed that manufactured cultural value.
Oh, absolutely. The value is completely engineered. They give the example of a Barnett Newman painting, just 2 blue squares, selling for $43.8 million.
That's absurd.
It is. The source calls it baseball cards for the ultra-wealthy. It's not about the art anymore. It's a tool for storing capital.
Manufactured value, manufactured reality.
Okay, let's jump from abstract art to a much more literal science. The fourth state of matter. And this is where we find the tragic story of an MIT professor, Nuno Loureiro.
Loureiro's death, which the source frames as a possible assassination, happened right after he solved a huge 50-year-old problem in plasma physics.
And why was that so important?
Because his work is foundational for the Commonwealth fusion system's spark reactor. This is the big attempt to finally achieve what's called Q1.
The Holy Grail, right? Getting more energy out of a fusion reaction than you put in.
That's the one. And it all works by containing plasma, the superheated matter, in a donut shape using these insanely powerful 12 Tesla magnets.
And for context, a hospital MRI is maybe 3 Tesla, so 12 is just enormous. But why would this science be suppressed?
Because plasma is everything. It's the fourth state of matter. It makes up 99% of the visible universe. But for years, it was basically classified or just ignored in schools, which held back civilian research.
And the sources connect this legitimate MIT research to something much more fringe. They do. They make a leap, but it's an intentional one. They bring up the Nazi Bell die Glock. The story is that it was a secret Nazi project that used some kind of field to rotate plasma. The implication is that this tech has been secretly developed for generations.
From weaponized science to weaponized nature, geoengineering, the sources say this is not a conspiracy theory, it's real.
And their proof is simple. There's a 1975 treaty banning weather weapons. You don't ban something that doesn't exist.
And we see it happening in the open today.
We do. The UAE uses cloud seeding all the time to create rain. They call it force rain. It's so common you can't even get a baseline for what natural weather is there anymore.
Then there's the UK experiment with the very unsettling name Satan.
The stratospheric atmosphere experiment. It was a test for solar geoengineering. They released a small amount of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere over England
Why?
to see if they could dim the atmosphere, basically mimic the cooling effect of a volcano.
So we have rainmaking, we have sun dimming. What is the ultimate apocalyptic fear here, according to these sources?
The final claim is that some of these efforts, like so-called sea ice thickening, could be part of a coordinated push to start a new ice age.
Which would be the ultimate form of planetary control.
Absolutely catastrophic. There'd be nowhere warm to migrate.
Wow. Okay. We've covered so much ground. From consciousness in a tank to propaganda bounties to the very physics that make up the universe, and the pattern is always the same.
It is. Critical information is either hidden or it's weaponized or it's framed in a way that maintains control over all of us.
Control's the thread that runs through everything.
It's the thread. Biological, digital, physical. Which brings us all the way back to that esoteric idea from the very beginning, the control over your own destiny.
The bardo. Remind us what that is.
The sources mention a specific part of Tibetan Buddhist teaching called the bardo of becoming. It's the state your consciousness is in after death, right before you're reincarnated.
And what happens in that state?
You start having these karmic visions of your next life. They get stronger and more frequent.
And they lead to a final vision.
Yes. They culminate in a single clear flash of the environment, the life circumstances, and crucially, the parents you will be conceived by. Your next life, your destination, is sealed by that vision.
So if the theme of all this hidden knowledge is control over our minds, our world, our energy, what does it mean if an ancient tradition says your ultimate destination is determined by the vision of your own conception?
It's a truly profound idea of control, one that goes beyond this reality. And if these sources have any truth to them, it suggests almost nothing is an accident.
A provocative thought to end on.
Keep that question with you.
Until next time, keep digging.